Alrighty, hello everybody. Welcome back to the third, I believe. Let me look at my calendar, get the dates right. Yep, the third installment of our lived experience interviews. Today we have Mr. Mark Conway, and
Hello.
yeah, let's get started here. Can you introduce yourself and share a little bit about who you are outside of kidney disease?
So my name is Mark. Outside of kidney disease, just a couple hobbies here and there, and kind of it, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a good answer. That's a good answer. I mean, everyone has hobbies, right?
Right.
For me, for me outside of kidney disease, I'm a brother, right? I'm somebody's son,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Uh, I I like music, and so that's how I would answer that. Um, when were you first diagnosed, Mark, and how old were you at the time?
So I was 2 years old when I was diagnosed with my condition.
Okay, yeah. Um, I you probably don't remember when you were diagnosed, so I won't ask what necessarily changed, but
Right.
how did your diagnosis change your life early on? Because you don't really have memory of being diagnosed, so I would love your input on that. Like how do you feel like your life has changed
I
about it?
mean, so for me, it's just kind of always been
Hmm.
the way it is as far as, living with like serious medical condition.
Hmm.
Um, just I always remember being little and a couple times a year having to drive to Portland and staying at my aunt's house, and
Hmm.
so I mean it was always a fun trip, but you know
Right. Right, but there was always an undertone under that trip, right? So it's like,
right,
well, I got to go to the hospital, so that kind of sucks. But
right.
yeah, yeah, um, yeah. I, I don't live as far away from Portland as you do, as
Yeah,
you
it's about
know.
4 hours for me, so
Yeah, it's about 30 minutes for me here in Vancouver, but I even remember my mom when I was young going, "Hey, we're gonna go see Dr. Jenkins," and me being like, "Oh man." Not that I don't like Dr. Jenkins, but I actually did an interview with him and that's posted by now, but absolutely love him. But as a kid, it's like, oh man, I get to go get because you know what that means. You're getting poked,
right.
you're
Yeah, it was always the blood draw. They'd have to hold me down and
right, right, yeah. And until we learn how to do it, right?
right.
Right, right. What does a normal day look like for you?
Um, Anymore it's fairly laid back depending on what I have going on.
Mhm,
I do work part-time, and so it's usually an afternoon or an evening that I get ready for that.
mhm.
Um, wake up in the morning and, first thing I do is start taking pills.
Right?
I'm year, almost 2 years out from my transplant,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
kind of in the habit of getting up on time and getting that stuff out of the way, and then kind
Mhm.
of get my day started.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I totally feel that. Except
Can't really
being
sleep in.
being a school bus driver, I can't really sleep in anyway.
Oh man,
Because waking up at 5 in the morning and then going to work um but you definitely got to plan your work schedule around it, right?
right.
Making sure, hey boss, sorry, I got to do this first.
Yeah,
Is really important. Make sure we keep
yeah.
our transplant healthy.
Yep.
What are some challenges people don't see or often misunderstand?
Um, a lot of it has to do with diet.
Mhm.
You know, going out to dinner with friends or going over to a friend's house for dinner, that kind of thing. It's like they may not understand the restrictions that I have as,
Mhm.
being transplant, watching my sodium intake and all that stuff. Um, Even when I was on dialysis, and I did it long enough that my close friends really kind of understood what I needed to watch out for and were conscious of it. But it's, anytime there's meals involved, it's like I got to put a little extra thought into it. And
Mhm. Yeah, meals are difficult. I remember when before I had my transplant, it was always hard for my friends to understand like why can't you have that extra slice of pizza, dude? Like we saved
Right.
it for you, you know?
Right.
Like it's like,
Yep.
well, the extra slice of pizza could make my phosphorus too high and then,
Right.
I get brittle bones. So,
Right.
right? But yeah, and it the other thing that's kind of hard is the energy level, I feel like.
Yeah,
Do you,
definitely.
do you ever feel like that? Yeah.
Yeah. So I struggle with that. I mean, even now,
Hmm.
it's a combination of my condition that I have and, the transplant and all that. But yeah, I struggle with my energy level a lot.
Yeah. How does that affect like work or, however you want to describe that?
Yeah. I mean, so really kind of over time, I figured out that if I have something that I need to be present for, I just have to take the time beforehand to rest.
Hmm.
And a lot of time it doesn't even mean sleeping. It's just kind of, you know, not exerting myself on something else, just to save that energy for later.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I I work all day for the school district. So I'm a school bus driver. I work at a middle school and I have like three different routes that I drive. And so I don't really
Wow.
have time to rest, but I get what you're saying. Before I had all those jobs, I was sleeping in the middle of my day so I could come back to work refreshed and
Right.
ready to drive. Now I don't get that as much, so I'm having to learn how to kind of rotate my schedule a little bit to allow for resting time. But
Right.
but yeah, no, I get that. There's certain things you got to be present for. Work being one of them. If you're in school, school's one of them.
Right.
Um, and you just got to learn to rest and take your time. What's something small that or that okay, I'm going to reframe this question because we weren't recently diagnosed. What's something that might seem small to others but maybe is a little bit harder than people might realize for you to do with your diagnosis?
Um,
I don't know if I
that's a,
worded
a
that
tough
correctly.
one to answer because I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of the time they just kind of go with the flow and like I said, a lot of my close friends kind of understand
Hmm.
my condition, and so
Yeah.
it's hard to kind of think outside of that normal for me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for me, especially when I got into high school, something that I thought seemed small to other people was that I couldn't go out as much.
Right.
So like when
Yeah.
when when people were like, "Hey, dude, let's go hang out," I don't really have the energy for that.
Right. And so
Really?
for me,
Like
I guess,
I do, right? Like, so why don't we just go? It's like,
right.
yeah, I don't
No,
have
I
that
get
energy.
that for sure. And I guess since you said that now, it made me kind of think like being around large crowds, being immunosuppressed, it's
Yeah,
like, um,
not
even now,
exactly
2 years
great.
out, it's like I'm still very, very cautious.
Mhm.
And so with my job, sometimes it can be tough, but
Mhm.
it's always something in the back of my mind of like, okay, who's coughing or sneezing over here?
Mhm. Exactly. Well, I don't. You can probably imagine as a school bus driver, it's kind of similar. It's like, oh,
Oh,
here comes this snotty kid getting on the
oh,
bus.
I
It's
couldn't
like,
imagine.
oh boy, should have worn my mask today.
Yeah,
But and then there's the part of it too where you don't want to have people ask you questions either, right? And
right,
so it's a fine balance between protecting yourself from like the physical like bugs and things like that, but also from like questions and stuff too, because I personally don't like a whole lot of questions being asked of me
right,
when I'm on the job.
right,
But other than that, I'm a pretty open book,
right.
right?
Same here.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just some things like jobs are one of those things where it's like, okay, I'm here to do a job. I don't want to be defined by my kidney disease while I'm at work, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
mean, even with my previous job where I was working a lot more, it was the same exact thing of like,
Hmm.
I'm here to do the job and,
Hmm.
that's what it's about. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And it it can be hard when you got to be gone all the time too, to have that not be the normal.
Right.
I don't know if you feel that, right? But it can be hard because you're gone all the time, and then the boss is like, all right, well, we have work to do. And it's like, yes, I understand that. Or for
Right.
me, it's we don't have subs, and it's like, yeah, you know what though? You're gonna lose another driver if I can't get to my nephrology appointment and something's wrong. You know,
Right.
um, you're gonna lose another school bus driver, and I don't think you want that either.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. Fortunately, my current and my past employer were both very understanding and accommodating.
yeah, mine is too. Mine's very understanding and accommodating. There's just a couple of times where it's like where he jokingly says, "Man, I wish you didn't have that doctor's appointment because we don't have subs." And it's like, well,
Right.
sorry, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get a little bit deeper here. And again, I want full disclosure for everyone watching too. If you don't feel comfortable answering something, you don't have to.
Right.
Um, how has kidney disease affected your mental or emotional health?
Um, I mean, it's definitely had an effect, I would say.
Mhm.
I did in-center hemodialysis for about 18 years.
Mhm.
So there was definitely some patches in there where it got old.
Yeah,
Um,
I can imagine.
um,
Yeah, that's
so
difficult to do that for 18 years.
yeah,
I'm happy you got your transplant though. That's
yeah,
awesome. You're free for now, right?
yep,
And that's
yeah.
good.
It's definitely a big change.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure, and I've never been on dialysis, but I can attest to the fact that sometimes before transplant, it can feel isolating when you're
Right,
always feeling down in the dumps and you're always just never at your best, right?
right.
It can feel isolating, you know. Does that ever?
Kind of. Go ahead.
I mean that 18 years on hemodialysis you were talking about. I don't know if you want to get into that, but
Yeah, that's fine.
was that pretty isolating for that 18 years or?
Um, I would, maybe at first, I was a senior in high school when I started. Um, and so that first couple years till I really kind of got used to it and got into a routine of like, okay, this is kind of how life is at this point. And then started to figure out like, I'm going to continue to live my life and, not just wake up and go to dialysis and kind of live my life around that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, see, I interviewed a dialysis tech and I believe her week is yes, so I can talk about this. I don't want to spoil different interviews that I've done, obviously. But I did interview a dialysis tech, Deborah, as some of the listeners may remember. She said it's actually you would think it's like all the time super down in the dumps at those centers, but she said a lot of the times actually there's a good community that forms there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And
Between the patients and staff,
mhm,
it's kind of like going to work, you develop relationships with
mhm,
people and friendships and where it's,
yeah.
yeah, it sucks going there, but you look forward to going there to see the people.
Right, exactly. Yeah, because I would imagine it's like going in for like a cancer treatment or any other treatment that you would have to go
Hmm.
inpatient for. You see the same people all the time,
Right.
And so yeah, I remember when I was in and out of the hospital, and that once a month for 14 months. This isn't necessarily me going in for dialysis or anything, but I got to know some of the nurses on some of the different floors because
Right.
they would be like, "Oh, you're back again. Why are you back?" Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I have a once a month appointment and the nurses in that clinic, they know me well. And
yeah.
so it's the same kind of thing. You got six going in for those appointments, but
Mhm.
you look forward to seeing those people.
For
So
sure, yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of what it turns into, right? Um when I was in pediatrics, I talk a lot about pediatrics because that to me was the best time for me to be a kidney patient was pediatrics.
right.
And I always I remember once I started to get into a rhythm and started to really understand my kidney disease, it was always exciting to go see Dr. Jenkins
Right.
or Dr. Bliss or Dr. Bain, right? My
Right.
pediatric urologist. It was always fun to go in and see them because maybe the day I go see Dr. Bain, I'm messing with one of the nurses and throwing shoes at him, right? Like I was a
Yeah.
little bit of a menace to poor Karen, but
Yeah. I mean, yeah, clinic days were usually pretty fun for in
oh yeah.
pediatrics.
Oh yeah, yeah. Clinic days are usually pretty fun. Or going to see Debbie, right?
Yeah.
That was always fun going to see Debbie when
And then
she
you
worked at
never know who,
colorectal.
what other your kidney friends are gonna be there in clinic that day too. So
Exactly,
that's
exactly. Yeah, I remember running into one of my buddies right after my transplant. We got our transplant at close to the same time, and I remember running into him going to do labs, and it was fun to sit down and chat and wait till we both got
right.
called back. So yeah, I think one of the days they even offered to take us both back to together to do our height and weight and then go our separate ways, but
Yeah.
because they were like, oh yeah, they're because they get to know, oh yeah, that you're really good friends, right? And so they tend to accommodate that where they can, right? Um, w- hmm. What keeps you going on the difficult days of kidney disease?
Um, knowing that it's that particular day is temporary, like a new day's tomorrow. It's cliche as it sounds.
Right.
Um, but it might suck today, but it's temporary and things will, get better.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I know I had a pretty rough Monday and Tuesday this last week, as you probably as you know because I've been talking to you
Right.
about it. But today I just decided, well, yesterday really I decided, man, this is temporary. I just gotta go to work on Wednesday. And
Right.
that's what I did today. I just said, you know what? I may not feel great today, but I gotta do it and push through it because tomorrow's a new day and I could feel 10 times better tomorrow.
Right.
You just never know. Yeah. That is it it does sound really cliche, but that is the way that I do it too. Like
Right.
tomorrow's another day. Yeah. What treatments have you experienced so far on your kidney journey?
So like I said, I did dialysis for a long time. And then other than that, just, routine doctor's appointments
Yeah.
and
And the
stuff
kidney
like that.
transplant.
Kidney, yeah.
Yeah.
So I had my first transplant when I was 12.
Mhm.
I had my second one when I was 19, which unfortunately didn't work out. It was about 9 months and I was back on dialysis. And then so my third one, which is current, I was 36. So
36. Nice. And it's working so far, it sounds like.
yeah,
So
yeah, no,
that's
it's been a
awesome.
steady uphill, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. How do you make decisions about your care?
Um, really, I mean, the way that kind of my whole life that it's been is just this is something that I, have to do and um or you mean as far as choosing like certain things?
Um, I think decisions about your care could mean anything. I mean, it could be the decision to say, yeah, I'm gonna go back on dialysis, right? Like,
Right.
how do you make those kinds of decisions?
Um, for me, it's always just kind of been that next logical step of okay, this is just, what we have to do.
Hmm. To keep ourselves healthy, right?
Right, exactly. It's
Yeah,
like,
you do what you got to do, and
exactly.
if it takes 18 years in your case, right, to
Right,
the kidney, then that's what we got to do.
right,
Yeah, a friend of mine said one time, because again, never been on dialysis, but he told me because I asked him because I was getting really close at the time to possibly needing dialysis,
right,
and I asked a friend of mine at the time. I said, what is dialysis like? And he said, it's survival is
Yeah,
what it is. And he said it's a hard decision to make because you don't want to, go
right,
into a clinic or have to do another surgery. But in the end, if it's going to get you from point A to point B being transplant,
right,
then you do what you got to do. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. What do you wish you had known earlier about kidney disease or treatment options?
Um, Kidney disease wise, like I said, it's something that I've grown up with my whole life.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just been normal for me. One thing that I didn't really know about until really after I had my permanent hemodialysis access
Mhm.
was peritoneal dialysis. It was
Mhm.
never really offered to me or even really explained what it was.
Mhm.
Um, it's probably not something I would have chosen,
Hmm.
but it still would have been nice to know what it was and kind of what it was about.
Yeah. That's that's interesting. See, because they've always told me I can't do PD because
Mhm.
I've had so many abdominal surgeries, and they're like the
Right,
lining of your abdominal wall is already destroyed. PD would just make it worse.
right,
Like it just wouldn't take, right?
right.
And so I've always wondered, like if I would have had to go on like chemo, how would that have shaken out? But I don't spend too much time on that
Yeah,
because I got the transplant, and so it's
yeah,
working, and I don't really have to worry about that as of right
yeah.
now.
I was in a similar situation with my first transplant. I think I was, uh, you know, less than 6 months from starting dialysis. I'm pretty sure,
Mhm.
and I was on the waiting list for about a month before I got the call when I was 12.
Nice.
So,
Yeah, yeah, and I know that doesn't that's not always the way it pans out for everyone.
right,
I mean, talking to Dr. Jenkins during the interview, he said sometimes there's some people who transplant's just not an option. And
right, certainly,
they live the rest of their life on dialysis.
right,
And I'm just like, man, I haven't met anyone like that yet who hasn't been able to
hmm,
have transplant as an option. But I can't imagine getting news like that.
right,
To be able for a doctor to say, hey, I know you're looking forward to maybe getting a kidney, but unfortunately, that's not an option for you.
right.
You
And I
know.
mean, for me, after being on the waiting list for 5 or 6 or more years, it's
Mhm.
like it at that point I'm just like I said, I'm living my life in the moment for and not like, okay, I'm waiting till I get a transplant. I'm just like, okay, this is life right now.
Mhm.
And it's just for the time being, it's the permanent situation until, something better
Until something better
comes
happens.
along.
Yeah. Until something better comes along. Yeah. How do you advocate for yourself in medical settings?
Um, I've learned from a few people over the years to not accept certain answers,
Mhm.
and just really kind of stand up for myself. Um, Knowing, everything that I've been through and kind of knowing the ropes, I really understand and know what to look out for.
Mhm.
So if a one of my care team is suggesting something, I will definitely question it if or you know, think about it a little bit more and question it. If it's not something that doesn't make sense right away,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just be able to speak up and say, well, either can you explain this more, or
Mhm.
you've explained this enough to where I don't agree with it. Let's talk about other options, or discuss this more.
Yeah. I think that's so important to know that you can disagree with your doctors.
Right,
It's okay to disagree with your physicians. It is
right,
100% normal. Um, because I think a lot of the times people fall into this trap of I have to listen to my doctor and I have to do exactly what my doctor says.
right,
Right. And that's good to listen to your doctor and do what your doctor says. but they don't. There's and I was talking to Dr. Jenkins about this too. Just like plumbers, not all nephrologists are good, right?
Right.
And so it's important to find someone that fits your needs and fits your
Right.
personality. So that way, when you have these conversations and you have these disagreements, there's not a whole lot of tension, right?
Right.
That's important. We don't want a whole lot of tension. But we also don't want a doctor that's going to push back a whole bunch and say, no, you have to do it my way, right?
Right. I'm
Um,
the doctor and I know best. And
right, exactly. And
no,
I
it's
go ahead.
oh, um, I was just gonna say with you know, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've got like 4 or 5 different specialists,
Hmm.
and their focus is on their specialty,
Hmm.
and my other issues that I have going on is not really in the on the radar.
I
So it's like
agree with
sometimes
that.
that has to be brought into the fold of like, well, hey, no, I'm doing this other routine with this other doctor, and is it going to conflict with what you're wanting to do?
Yep. And that's where having a really good primary care comes into play, I've noticed. So
Hmm.
my primary care is really good at, in fact, I just got a call from them today because I visited the ER on Monday for my wonderful excursion that I had on Monday. And
Uh-huh.
she called me today and said, "Hey, how you doing? Let's get a follow-up scheduled because this wasn't normal, obviously, and the ER had to deal with it. You were able to go home, but I just want to check in and make sure that you're doing okay."
Hmm.
And having that a good PCP that's able to follow up and connect the dots and say, all right, yeah, this sounds like a real issue with, for example, your diabetes. I'm going to message your endocrinologist and say, hey, he needs to be seen, right? So having a good primary care or someone that's a good quarterback, I guess, is a good analogy, right?
Right.
Someone who's a good quarterback, whether that's your nephrologist or your primary care or your urologist or whoever, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's good having a good quarterback. Which leads me into the next portion, which is like support systems and community, because uh, having a good quarterback in your community is important as well, right? So who or what has been your biggest source of support?
Um, Family definitely.
Mhm.
Um, like I said, close friends that really understand my situation.
Mhm.
Um, the kidney friends I've made over the years, obviously.
Mhm. Yep.
Like you.
Yep, that's right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, for me as a young person, and I don't know if I mentioned this, but when on an interview yet, but I
mhm,
went through Northwest Kidney Kids, and that was a big support
definitely.
for
Yeah.
me. And so they are, for those of you listening who don't know who Northwest Kidney Kids is, they're the organization that I am trying to model some of Northwest Kidney Connection off of. Um, and so Northwest Kidney Kids does support for youth and families. So the youth that go through the kidney disease, them and their families are who Northwest Kidney Kids serve. And so they're all about trying to make the lives of these pediatric patients just all around better and more. They're trying to empower these youth and to take charge of their health, and it's just a great organization. But through them, I've found camaraderie with other people
Yeah.
like you, Mark, where I met you at
Yep.
at youth camp. Um,
Yep.
so that was always a good support system for me growing up was Northwest Kidney Kids. And now I we want to try to create the same thing for young adults. So
Right.
yeah. How important, I guess we kind of touched on this a little bit, but how important has peer support or connecting with others like you been?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah. How important has peer support or connecting with others like you been? Like how important is that?
Um, as somebody that, I live in a fairly small town,
Mhm.
and it's, not that many people here that I know. um, they're around, but um that have a similar situation.
Yeah.
And so it's like when I was a kid going to kidney camp and like, oh, here's all these kids that are going through similar things as me,
Hmm.
and making friends with them over the years and
Yeah.
staying connected. That really means a lot. I mean, you've seen it at the youth camp in particular. These connections are formed of you know none of my friends at school get it, but
But these guys
you
do.
do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it really means a
You,
lot.
yeah. Yeah. Exactly. It does. I mean, having that community is huge. And when I talking to Dr. Jenkins, he said, and Deborah, the dialysis technician community is everything.
Hmm.
If you
Yeah.
don't have people that understand you, it's gonna consume you. And it's just gonna it life before I started going to kidney camp was way different than life after. Because
Yeah.
before I had that community in pediatrics, it was very isolating. I didn't know anyone else like me, and I felt like I was the only one. But after you meet 15 other people, it's like, okay, maybe this is a little more common than just me, right?
Right.
Right. Yeah. Um, how let's look at some young adult specific questions here. How did kidney disease impact your transition into adulthood?
Um, that's a tough one because it was it was almost like this like a hard stop. I don't know how to describe it exactly,
Mhm.
but literally on my 18th birthday, I'm halfway through my senior year of high school. I was informed that I'd need to start dialysis. And so it was like that last, couple months of high school. And then it was just from that point, it was just kind of onto dialysis from there.
Mhm. And then having to find new physicians too.
Right. And so the pediatrics kept me on for probably longer than they should have, but I think I was 21, maybe 22.
Yeah, that's
And
about when I
then,
was. I was
yep.
21, about when they said, "All right, we need to have you leave us now.
Yeah.
Like Dornbecker will not allow us to keep you. You have to
Yeah.
find a new doctor."
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
pretty much how it was.
yeah.
So,
I mean, and I was searching before then too,
mhm.
trying to
But
look people up, but I don't know if you can attest to this. One of the hardest parts about finding a new physician is not really knowing much about the person when you're going into the appointment.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah.
And so when I came back home after kind of things leveled out and started dialysis
Mhm.
in center, I had the group of nephrologists that managed the center. One of them became my primary nephrologist at
No.
that point. So it was just kind of okay. This is my nephrologist now that manages my care
Yeah.
after I was in out of pediatrics.
Yeah. Yeah. See, I can see where that can be kind of beneficial almost, where
Hmm.
you're surrounded by a nephrologist all the time when you're on dialysis, right? And so
Right.
if you're going through your transition, you might go, "Oh, actually, I really like this guy that I see in the center every so often. Maybe
Yeah,
I'll
there's
just go see them."
definitely yeah, there are definitely uh, providers like that of like, if I'm talking to this particular provider, they seem like they listen and
Mhm.
understand, take the time to understand what I'm talking about
Yeah.
rather than getting, you know, the kind of the same speech every time.
Yeah. See, my transition was different than that for sure, but I also didn't go through my transition in the middle of dialysis either. I went
Hmm.
I went through it after my transplant. And so I
Right.
think
And
there's
that
a lot of key differences there,
definitely.
right? And so for me, it was like, oh, you've had a transplant, you can kind of wait on the back burner a little bit. I got five other dialysis patients that are waiting to see a nephrologist.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt that my transition went with multiple different clinics, not just, one, multiple, right? And it wasn't until I started going, and I will name drop them because I love them and I can't recommend them enough. Northwest Renal absolutely saved my rear end. when I had fired my previous nephrologist, and I said, I'm just not getting the standard of care that I expect to get, right?
Right.
And
Yeah, after coming off pediatrics, it is so different, and you really
Mhm.
have to fight for that.
Yeah, and anyways, uh, I called my friend Maggie, as you know, Maggie,
Hmm.
and I said, "Hey, where do you go?" Right? And they were like, "I go to Northwest Renal and I love my doctor. You should go there too." And I called them and they said, "Well, this seems pretty urgent because you don't have a nephrologist and you've had a transplant and you're running out of your meds.
Right.
Can we see you today?"
Wow.
And
That
I
is
was like,
awesome.
"Whoa, that is pretty cool." And this nephrologist that I see now, Dr. Hawkins, found time out of his day to see me, and really great personality, really awesome guy. And I was just like, all right, you're the man, whether you like it or not. You know, you are the guy that I'm seeing, and I've been happy ever since. In fact, I see him on the 10th, and I can't wait to see him every time I go in because he's just a really fun guy. But yeah, it's interesting to hear the differences between transitioning in the middle of dialysis and after a
Hmm.
transplant. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it was like I said, it was never really even occurred to me. It was just these were the
Hmm.
this is what happened, and then the step after that, and it was kind of all there was. Unfortunately for me, there was not that gap
Hmm.
or disconnect.
Yeah, it definitely. Uh, and my experience makes me worry for others like me,
Right.
because
I
it's
can
like,
see it, or it's common.
yeah, because for me, it's like I don't want the other younger kids, that I work with at youth camp, because, being assistant camp director now for Northwest
Hmm.
Kidney Kids this year again. I'm very happy about that. But, you know, it makes me worry for these kids growing up.
Hmm.
Like, okay, what's going to happen to you when you age out? And are you ready to take that on
Right.
and have to find another doctor? Because the reality of the situation is that you go through enough arrogant providers, they're going to be like, "Oh, I don't have to listen to you. I don't have to listen to anyone that's had experience with you." And it's kind of scary,
Right.
because they just aren't listening to you. Yeah. Um, what challenges? We already kind of talked about that. What advice would you give other young adults that might be newly diagnosed?
Um, Listen to what the providers are telling you.
Hmm.
Try to understand it and do your research on what that means.
Yeah.
Listen to your doctors, but understand what they're saying so that you have the ability to question it.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely want to ask questions. Yeah. Um, if I could give anybody advice, and I think it's kind of the same thing that Dr. Jenkins told me. Don't settle for someone that you don't like.
Right.
Don't settle for less than what you think you're worth, right? Because if you start doing that, you're gonna find people that just and you'll see it more often than not. I feel like it's people that just don't care or see you as a paycheck, right?
Yeah.
And that's not something that you want. So, what's what's one misconception about whether it's kidney disease or dialysis or transplant that you would like to clear up?
Um, I guess dialysis just because, I spent so long doing it that I see people that starting dialysis and oh my gosh, I have to start dialysis. My life is over. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time to adjust, whether you're doing PD or hemo. It is going to take time to adjust, but there's a shift, but it's not over. You know,
Yeah.
you can still live your life.
Yeah. one of the things that I liked that Dr. Jenkins said, he's such a funny guy. He said one of the most common things that he sees is like people that don't want to take their meds.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, it's funny. He said it's funny to him. Obviously, he's not laughing at patients, but he says it's funny to him when he hears people say, "My life is over. I have to take meds," or "My life is over. I have to do this."
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only one because he said, especially with like medication, he's like, everyone takes medication at least one point in their life. You
Right.
know, uh, you're not the only one that has to do it. Like
Yeah.
um, and I feel like that's one of the things about kidney disease that a lot of people that I've heard of, like from newly diagnosed people, taking the meds is hard. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it is, but have you ever thought about like the fact that there's lots of other people in the world that have to take medication too, and you're not the only one, right? Like, but yeah. What do you wish the public understood better?
Um, that's a tough one also.
Yeah,
Just because there are so many misconceptions.
there are.
Um,
The one that I
I'm
talked with
yeah.
the one
What
I
do you
talked
think?
yeah, the one I talked with Brian about very briefly was the misconception that if you give a kidney as a living donor, it's going to
Yeah.
kill you. That's the one misconception that we talked about. And I wish that the public understood, especially since, we just posted a fact about this. Mark, did you know there's like 120,000 people waiting for an organ transplant in the United States? And
That's
out of
insane.
those, 103,000 of them are kidney. 103,000. And I think a lot
That's
of that has to do with, it makes you think, why is that, right? If you can donate a kidney while you're alive, why is it that, we have so many kidneys that people are waiting for? I think a lot of it has to do with some of those misconceptions, right? Like if I give a
right.
kidney, I'm going to die. Or if I mark that I'm an organ donor on my license, the doctor's not going to try to save me, right? So do
Give me one
you,
sec. I gotta
yeah,
plug my
for sure.
computer in.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I think for those of us listening, I'm just going to keep talking here, but for those of us
You're good.
listening, I just think that it's important that you do your research before you go and start assuming things about organ donation and things like that and transplantation. I think it's important.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. How can people support someone with kidney disease even if they don't know what to say?
Um, I think really just, treating them like a regular person,
Hmm.
it's like I have friends that oh, like carrying something. Oh, you don't have to carry that. I'll get it. It's like I'm capable.
Hmm.
I'm capable of doing these things.
Yeah,
I'll let you know if I need help.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, just because I've had 23 odd abdominal surgeries doesn't mean I can't go walk this thing back over to the laundry room, right? Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah. 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 So I'm gonna ask a couple more questions and then we'll kind of wrap it up here.
Okay.
How has this journey uh changed you as a person?
Um, it really makes you appreciate life in general, I suppose.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of people just kind of tend to, you know, take things for granted in a way,
Hmm.
or you know, I've lived on life support essentially for
Yeah.
half my life, and so it's like, I there are times I feel like I take it for granted, but at the same time, I can stop and appreciate it.
Yeah. It's it's easy to take things for granted when you're feeling good, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to do that. And kidney patients, I'm sure, are guilty of it too, right? I mean, one of the big concerns that a nephrologist of mine had, Dr. Aluzri, love her.
He's awesome.
She said one of the things that, she worried about with me, but then she was like, "Oh, I don't have to worry about that with him," is, you never had to do dialysis, right? Me, right? And
Right,
we're
right,
talking about me in the first, in like the third person, right?
right.
I never had to do dialysis. And so she was like, is this going to be something that he really appreciates as much as the next person would? Because, he never had to do dialysis. And I think it was Dr. Jenkins who told her, he said, he's been waiting 17 years for this.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's gonna appreciate it just as much as the next person. And she was like, "Yeah,
Right.
Randy, you're probably right, And I appreciate my donor. I don't know who they are. I got a deceased donor kidney.
Mm-hmm.
But
Same.
I appreciate them, and without them, who knows? Northwest Kidney Connection might not have started, if I wouldn't have gotten my transplant. And so I'm thankful for my donor every day. That
Definitely.
they gave me that second chance to be able to do things like this and have these conversations, right? A couple more questions here. So I'm going to do one more and then we'll do our closing question.
Okay.
What are you proud of surviving or overcoming?
Uh, just to make it through everything that I have. Like I said,
Mhm.
I was diagnosed when I was 2. I'm now 38. Um, and so with my condition, when I was born, it wasn't, the outlook was not good. And as time and medical sciences progressed, it's like,
Mhm.
I've continued to make it this far and plan on going further. So
Yeah, for sure. For me, it's just surviving as long as I have to.
yeah.
When I was born, I don't know if I've told you this, but I'm open to sharing. When I was born, I was given like a less than 5% chance of living, and they were like, he's probably not going to live through the first 24 hours, you know,
Wow.
and unfortunately, they're telling my mom who and my dad who just watched his wife bleed out, you know, and
Hmm.
they're trying to save her, and then they're telling him, your son might not live through the first 24 hours of childbirth, and for me just to get married, right, and
Right.
to graduate high school and to do all these things, start a nonprofit. Those are all things that they never predicted that I would have been able to do, and I'm really proud of that. Um, I
Awesome.
I always tell people who ask, like, how has this been hard? Yes, but I've done a lot of things that they never thought that I'd be able to do. I'm walking around, I'm living, breathing,
Right.
24 years past my expiration date. So one last question here. What has helped you reclaim a sense of control or dignity in your journey?
Um, Really, I suppose it's living kind of on my terms.
Hmm.
Um, One thing that my mom kind of taught me early on was, we control this, it doesn't control us.
Mm,
So
yeah.
it's we're not living my life around my condition.
Mm,
We're integrating my condition into my life.
hmm.
I do what I need to when it comes time to take care of it.
Hmm.
But it's like, there's other stuff in life besides my medical condition.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, moms moms are awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, she
My
was support for, through my first 2 transplants and then beyond. So,
Yeah, mine was and still is one of my biggest supporters for my kidney stuff, my Vauders, things like that. I mean,
yeah.
if I ever have a problem, I know I can call mom and she'll help me out.
Right.
But she taught me the same thing. We don't live like kidney disease isn't our life. It's just a part of our life.
Exactly.
It's just a part of what makes us who we are, and we roll with the punches as they come, right? Yeah. Well, anyways, Mark, thank you so much for taking about an hour out of your day
Yeah.
to come and chat with us about kidney disease. The next interview we will have, according to the schedule here, we have you. And then on Wednesday, we will be talking to Dr. David Bliss, my old pediatric surgeon,
Awesome.
about what it's like to be a pediatric surgeon and help help kidney patients in that way. So thank you everybody so much for watching, and we will see you next week.